Hey everybody, Tom and Keith, we're the Front Row Noles guys. Keith, for much of this game, it felt like we had read this book before, and then lo and behold, Florida State authored a new chapter, which was much needed. I mean, that's a big step. I realize Louisville's not going to be your national championship football team this year, but it's more about Florida State and breaking through and getting a win like that.
Candidly, it's everything about Florida State. I'm sitting there with the beginning of the fourth quarter going, here we go again. This did not look good. And then Louisville goes in and scores, and probably the two best things that came out of this ball game is, number one, that offensive series right after Louisville took the lead. Mm-hmm. And secondly, the defense made some stops in the second half, particularly in the fourth quarter, that I think will go a long ways towards helping these kids with their confidence. I know there was some players that were injured and banged up. We'll have to see how that works out in terms of moving ahead. But I think this team is poised very nicely as they go into the NC State game.
So it's interesting because if Louisville doesn't successfully execute that fake punt, you're up 21-0 at the half, maybe more, and it feels like you run away with the game, which we've said that before. In hindsight, now that you know that it's a win, probably better they had to do it this way.
Well, Coach Taggart was asked about that in the postgame, and he basically said, you don't really like to think about things like that. You'd want to win the ball game 50-0, but maybe for this team, having some adversity, overcoming the adversity, and having some success might be something that this particular team needs, that's different than anybody else.
So let's talk defense first. So Marvin Wilson had 10 tackles, 2 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss, fell on a fumble to wrap up the football game. I mean, the guy's 320 pounds. What else can he do?
Nothing. He had an outstanding game, and he and his teammates in there, Cooper in particular, played very well. I thought the interior of Florida State's defensive line had their best game of the season by far.
The game plan for FSU was obviously to take away the run and force the quarterback to beat you. And he did a couple of times, but at crunch time, that strategy worked because they forced a pass in there. He threw an errant ball, and Cyrus Fagan made a pick.
He did, and in both of the touchdowns, the defensive backs were in position. They just didn't make a play. Now, prior to that, we were all complaining and frustrated because they weren't in a position. Well, now they're in the position. Now the next step is to learning how to make that play when you're in position. That'll come with experience, but I like the progress that they've made.
Okay, obviously this will be a big topic amongst the media, Florida State fans, but the quarterback situation.
Do we have a quarterback controversy?
Well, here's the thing. Obviously, Alex Hornerbrook, even before Blackman went down, he goes in for one drive. I mean, really, you get a handoff for whatever the yardage was, and your first pass is a touchdown. That's pretty good. But more than that, he helped lead Florida State back at that point in the fourth quarter, and it was much needed.
And obviously, at the time we're taping this, we don't know the extent of Blackman's injury. We're told he will have an MRI Sunday morning. But I think what you saw was what the coaches were hoping would happen. He came in, did Hornerbrook, had success. We'd been calling for that. They did it. It happened. It just also so happened he had to come in because of injury, threw for over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Again, we don't know what the MRI will show. If Blackman is fine, I still think for this week anyway, because you've got one more game and then a bye week, that probably you go with Hornerbrook. Same with Jawan Williams in a bad ankle. Sit him out one more week, take your bye week, and then see where you are with him. But the one noticeable thing to me with Alex, and I commented it to him when I talked to him after the game, I mean, he has won and experienced success much more than anybody in this locker room has, which you have to process that. But he gets the ball out quick. He makes his decision and gets it out quick, and that to me was noticeable.
Very noticeable. He had 2 or maybe 3 times that he threw the ball away. He was able to get to the second or third receiver. Had a couple balls, unfortunately, that Cam dropped. One of them would have been a first down. Kind of surprised him with it. I didn't think Cam thought he could even get the ball to him the way he did. But that experience, 30 wins at Wisconsin, whatever it was?
Maybe 26. It was
whatever it was. Yeah, he knows what that feels like. He knows what it takes to get there, and I think with him now having some success, kids will start paying more attention to him in terms of what he says, how he carries himself, that type of thing. Not to say that James was not good, but James is still young. We keep forgetting about that. He's still young. This other guy, and Alex, he's been there a while, been there, done that, as they say.
Much more to come in conversation in coming days about that. Florida State gets a 35-24 win. He's Keith. I'm Tom. You can listen to our Front Row Noles First Look show that airs 8 o'clock Sunday morning, and then we'll hit your podcast feeds and, of course, complete coverage online at theosceola.com.